to our Student Success TED Talks, part of the Elevate series. We know it's a dark November day, but this event is meant to bring light and inspiration, spark collaboration, and celebrate the incredible work happening across UW-Tacoma to support our students. A few quick notes about today. Today's talks will be recorded and posted on our Student Success YouTube channel so others can learn from these insights. So folks who are speaking, just be aware where the camera is. We are on a tight timeline. I'm going to try and keep us on track. I will try to keep the speakers politely updated of their time. Speakers know I have a 2-minute, 1 minute, and you're done signs. We had such amazing response to our call for talks that we're going to be hosting another one of these sessions in January. So there are some of you who weren't able to do it today. We will try and work around your schedule to find a January date. So if you're feeling inspired and want to present, look for this sign-up link, and it's also on the back of the agendas so we can capture your interest. Also, please sign in. So I'll end with a big thank you to our presenters for sharing their time and ideas. A huge shout out to Megumi Demondarita and Shea Duncan for their behind-the-scenes magic. And then we're just going to dive in. So here is today's agenda, and our first speaker today is Sally Schwartz.
My name's Sally Schwartz. I work in the Milgard Centers of Excellence. My center right now specifically is the Milgard Center for Financial Wellness. And previously I was in the Milgard Success Center, so I'm going to talk a little bit about those two centers. Since we have so many centers, I'm just going to do 2 today, if that's all right. Next. So these are all of our centers. They cover a lot of different areas that supplement our academic units in the business school, and they allow students to experience real-world experiences, competitions even, and work experience that go along with their studies. So next. So the first one is the Success Center, and this is our boutique career center just for business majors, undergrad, and graduate students. And Carrie Barker is in charge of the Success Center, and she helps students with resumes and interview preparation. She'll do one-on-one appointments, and she also does group events. We call it the free, the resume readiness events. These are some of the other resources that we offer. So we offer students the Big Interview platform, which is a 24-hour interview prep platform with AI feedback for students. So you can go in there and you can type in the job title that you're applying for or the industry, and you can choose your interview questions, easy, medium, or hard, and then get AI feedback when you're done. It's really cool. We have Handshake, which the whole campus uses for looking for jobs and internships and submitting your resume and getting resume feedback and advice. Milgard Gold is getting revamped this year, but that was our business professional certificate program for students. We have Iris, which is our photo booth. So you can go to Milgard Hall and go to the photo booth, put in your email address, take your pictures, and they will send your photos straight to your email, and you can use them immediately. And it does a terrific job. I just did that myself. A lot of resources for alumni and employers out there. We obviously do career and internships fair at least twice a year. And then the other big thing we do is a lot of networking and informational sessions with employers who want to come and recruit on campus, either by specific major or they want to have an entire week of recruiting on campus. That's something that Carrie would set up with that employer and advertise to students. Next. Annual events. So the Success Conference starts us off in early fall quarter, usually before the quarter begins. We have panels by major. So students can decide to go to accounting, management, marketing, or finance panels. And then we fill those panels with alumni in various professions, and students can learn about their pathways and ask questions. And then there's a resource fair and a networking event all in that same day. The etiquette dinner is very popular. Employers or individuals can sponsor tables, cut the cost down dramatically for students, so they're only paying maybe $10, $20 to eat a 3-course meal with an etiquette trainer. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to that every year. The fall and And I think it's spring or winter career fair. Is it winter? Winter career fairs are happening where students obviously can connect with employers. And then the lunch and learns continue on all quarter long with employers, and those are free over the lunch hour. Next. These are just a few of the employers that Milgard works with, and it's increasing every single year. Yeah, and next. All right, so my center that I'm currently in, Center for Financial Wellness, it is very much tied to the Success Center as far as finding jobs, careers, having an income for life. So we kind of meld the two a little bit. We're supported through a generous donation through Sound Credit Union, and we have two arms. We have the Financial Literacy Initiative and the Wealth Creation Initiative. So Financial Literacy Initiative, we do lunch and learns for students maybe once or twice a week during the quarter on a variety of financial literacy topics. They're free, they're open to the public. We have a UW Investment Challenge that we started last year. This will be happening again winter quarter, where students use a stock market simulation game and compete either as individuals or as teams for cash and prizes over winter quarter. We have a financial literacy scholarship. This year we're giving away 5 $1,000 awards. And then we have an alumni who's very involved named Dan Wickens, and he answers our money line, Ask Dan Anything. So students can submit questions, he responds through email, and he also creates a YouTube video of him answering the question, and then we can post it for other students on his portion of our website. And we have a class this year, a 5-credit personal finance class. It'll be taught by 2 financial advisors that are still working. They're on our Milgard Executive Council, and they also do a stock market simulation part of the class for 4 to 5 weeks long. So students are going to learn that investment piece along with personal finance. The wealth creation arm includes our Milgard Bloomberg Markets Lab. It's on the 3rd floor of the Milgard building. It has a stock market ticker, it has a world clock, and it has Bloomberg terminals. And Bloomberg is utilized in the financial markets and analysis industry. It's a very robust system where students can research companies, stocks, investments, and they incorporate the Bloomberg terminal into their finance classes right now, and they can also get a Bloomberg certification. Right now I have 4 students that help in the lab over the lunch hour, so anybody can come in, get started on the Bloomberg terminal, and get some help because it's a little bit tricky to learn the commands initially. Next. These are some of our speaking events and topics that we repeat every single year. So we do a lot with Sound Credit Union, but we also work with other banks, credit unions, professionals, sometimes faculty will give talks. We have a lawyer coming on Thursday to talk about what happens if you're involved in a car accident, for example, and the financial and legal implications. So we bring in all sorts of people to speak. And these are usually 12:30 to 1:30, and they're for free, open to the public. And our lab, I talked a little bit about that, but it's open for anybody to come in and check out. And then our students taking specific upper division finance classes will have to use the lab to complete a lot of their projects and research. So, and I have one more. And this is our team for the financial wellness team. So we do have 2 professors who are the directors, and then me to help them with events and marketing and that sort of thing. So that is all. Yes.
I think DC has a question.
I was just curious how challenging it's been to get the word out beyond the schools.
It's very difficult. So I don't know what the solution is. I use as many email lines as I know to send out event announcements. I do flyers all over the place. They're obviously up on the events calendar for UW Tacoma and the Milgard School of Business. And I use the Canvas pages for students, but it's hard. I'm starting to get a lot more IAS students coming to events, which is exciting, but I haven't really tapped into the engineering computer science group as much as I want to. But yeah, it's not easy.
All right, next up is Marisa and Amanda.
All right. I'm Amanda, this is Marisa. We are librarians at your library on campus, and today, have your book and read it too, using student data to select accessible and engaging course materials.
Next slide.
Today we're going to be covering how students access textbooks. This is coming from a survey we did of students, all students on campus. We had 180 respondents, and that was in the spring of 2024, so relatively recent data. We're also going to talk about what they find helpful in course materials, and this is from a series of interviews that Marisa did with 10 UWT students that were quite in-depth. And then last, we'll end with what you can do with this information, tips on selecting and ensuring access to course materials for all our students. So, how do our students access course materials? On the slide, you can see this is actually directly from our survey, the survey responses that we had. We found that the number one thing that students do is they shop around. They look online, so purchasing from various online vendors is their top choice, but we also found very importantly that 61% of our students find free, which is what they said, which we often know is often pirated, or maybe it's just a PDF that was posted in their course, but to them, free material. So students really seek that out. But on the flip side, that's a little bit scary. We found that 22% of our students are regularly going without textbooks. So they're continuing in the course, but not purchasing the materials to continue on. A follow-up question that you're not seeing the actual graph for, but we asked about how cost impacted students as far as course materials, and it has a huge impact. 51% of students, similar to the question before about going without textbooks, 51% of students should just not purchase the book, and they'll continue in the class anyways. And we found 16% of our students are making actual selections on what courses they sign up for based on the cost of materials when they can find that out ahead of time. Next slide. We had another category, not another category, where students could free respond and share about the impact of course material costs. And we had some very heart-wrenching things that students shared, including the cost or trouble of finding textbooks has given me anxiety attacks. And I have to choose between medication and textbooks. The library does have a course reserves program, and what this means is we have textbooks available for checkout in the library, which is a great option to provide your students, but many students on campus are using this. 26% do use this reserves program, but 29% of students haven't even heard of this. And we found out in a series of follow-up focus groups where we were able to dive into these questions a little bit more, that the main reason is students aren't hearing from their instructors that their textbooks are available in the library. So they really like hearing from faculty, instructors about this additional option. Library course reserves, typically we only have one copy of each book. Marisa's going to share a little bit more in the presentation about how this can be used, but it is an option we want you to know about.
All right, so what do students find helpful? Unfortunately, we're starting out with what students found hurtful, largely because that's where we had the strongest areas of consensus. So 9 out of 10 interviewed students made negative comments about unaffordable course materials. 5 out of 10 of those students went so far to say is that lack of affordability affected their learning. The difference there was mostly students, like some of them would say, I mean, I grumbled about it and I didn't like it, but I could buy the book. There were many cases where students said, I went without the book, and yes, that made the class a lot harder. I'm sure that doesn't surprise anyone here. We also know from our survey that we ask students, what feels affordable to you? What's affordable for a book? The average response was $32 to $42 per book. So if you are assigning materials that are pay to play, that's where students are feeling comfortable. Things above that feel costly. Something we're talking about a lot in instructional circles is accessibility. 8 out of 10 students made negative comments about inaccessible materials. This was regardless of whether or not they had or self-disclosed having disability accommodations. And in fact, several students told me that they didn't have accommodations, they just prefer these materials for other reasons. Something that came up that students really like is that they love having captions and transcripts on audiovisual materials. In fact, some students were like, oh my God, I hate being assigned podcasts unless there's a transcript, because it takes me much less time to read it than to listen. Lots of examples like that. Bad examples of things they don't like include flashing ads on pages, no screen reader compatibility. A lot of students, even students who are not blind or low vision, will use screen readers to read text aloud to them, and if your text isn't compatible with that, it makes it harder for them to listen along. And also, there were stories of students telling about their friends or classmates who had to wait for weeks to have accommodated materials made for them. And there was no backup plan by the professor in the class, so that student essentially those students couldn't engage in course materials until DRS provided those materials, and it takes quite a bit of time. Next slide. All right. Things that were positive. More positive comments were made about books that are easy to navigate, and particularly things that have few hoops to jump through. Students, whenever possible, liked having their materials directly in Canvas or as close to that as possible. They didn't want to navigate a lot of logins or other hurdles to get through. They like the ability to print and save when possible, things that feel fast and searchable, particularly for studying. If they can control F through the text, that is a positive. 4 students said that they like visual materials, and 4 students also said that they like a variety of multimedia materials. And we are going to skip ahead. They also really liked engaged and positive instruction. So when students are experiencing an instructor who is available and ready to help them learn, they're more willing to compromise. I encourage you to come back and read these later, but we're gonna go right ahead to the last slide because we have 2 minutes. So what can you do with this information? First, we would really love you to tell students about the Course Reserves program, but remember it has limitations. We usually only have 1 book per course, and it is available for 4 to 24 hours. It's not a great solution for the entire class to try to get access this way. It is great for students who are waiting for their book at the beginning of the quarter, and maybe a couple of students who really can't afford the material after that. We do have scanners on site. The more students who are willing to scan the chapter they need and leave the book for the next student, the more students have access. Consider affordability. We had a ton of, we obviously heard a lot about affordability in both the survey and the interviews. This comes up almost every time we talk to students about course materials. Do be thinking about accessibility. It doesn't matter if you don't have any students with accommodations in the class, it's still important. And last but not least, everybody loves variety and convenience. Work those in if you can. That's it.
We have time for a couple questions.
Yes.
Are you also talking about online books that are available to students or only physical?
Any course materials. So
Yeah.
we talk not just about text course materials, but videos, podcasts,
Yep.
digital books, print books, all those things.
Anything students are assigned for a course. Yes.
Hi, thanks. I was curious if the survey or the focus group conversation had any talk about like the difference between online materials that are copyrighted versus the pirated, or if you were more interested in just sort of determining where they were finding materials and less on like the informing them about that piece of it. Like it seems like that's a good thing for faculty to be doing more of.
The survey and the focus groups were not focused on that. That was more about access and barriers. Did you do that in the interviews?
We talked about piracy. I want students to have their book and read it too.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily consider it my job to say, pirating is bad, don't do it. Really what I want is for us to think about making sure students have access, preferably legally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much. Next up is Conor from Center Student Involvement and Leadership.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Conor Leary. I am the Director for Student Involvement and Leadership here at the University of Washington-Tacoma and work in the Center for Student Involvement in the University-wide Student Center. It's like the longest title I've ever had to say. Today, I'm going to be talking about defining involvement, which seems like, shouldn't you know that already, Conor? Yes, but the campus, we've been focusing a lot more ever since I started back when we were in virtual periods during COVID. We have been constantly saying this idea of we're coming back to campus. I think many of you probably have heard that. So this year, the Center for Student Involvement is really taking time to build back that potential and that definition of what involvement outside of the classroom looks like for our students, and most importantly, what it looks like for our office. We have been very much on the idea that any involvement works. As long as you're on campus and enjoying the services, taking part in something, we are happy. But the other side of it is that we also want to demonstrate that our programs are helping to influence the students' outcomes on campus, and that students who are engaged with our campus in our office and in our area, in our many areas that I'll talk about today, are also bringing to light the experience of why students should come to the campus in the first place. And that foundation is really, we're starting to build on what involvement can look like in our office. So, okay, it preserved it. So I am really bad at slideshows sometimes. There's a lot of words on here that are actually going to be dissected more so through. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. But over the summer, the Center for Student Involvement team, of which there are 7 professional staff members working actively for students every quarter, we identified some of our bold phrases of the idea that we want involvement not just to be showing up to an event. That might be the only thing that students can do, and that's more than fine. But we're looking at judging not only just getting students to the involvement areas, but also to increasing their intensity. So we're going to go through each of these areas as involvement as intentional, inclusive, impactful, and fluid. So I'll bypass this slide since there's a lot of words on there. Okay, so we're starting off with intentional. This is something that my team really needed to kind of flesh out a lot more because of the different areas that we do. Many of our programs, you can just show up, which is awesome. We want students to engage with us. But there are actively student leaders who are making that decision to build time in their schedule to do that. So that intent is that kind of introduction to then when we get student leaders actually helping us to build a lot of these programs. So it does require the involvement that we're looking for, the students' idea to prioritize their engagement. So when they're on campus, if they have the ability to go to an event or participate in a club, or they can go study by themselves for a few hours, they're making that decision to figure out if they want to be involved in this capacity. It also means that students can identify or should be able to identify an interest that they themselves, or with our help, can then find an outlet to go to and enjoy or to take part in. And then it also helps us demonstrate that students understand their part in their own creation of their sense of belonging. We all talk about many of how do we focus on that area and make sure that students belong on our campus through our many different services, but there's that key point that students also have to be willing to work for that in some capacity. We also want to make sure that involvement is inclusive and not necessarily open to everybody, which we definitely want to make sure happens to students, but on the internal side of making sure that the modality for involvement matches the student's schedule or flexes when it can. So students who maybe are only on campus one day a week can't get to in-person opportunities as often. We talk constantly with our student organizations about how are you involving the students who can't make that one meeting time that you have each week. There are ways of engaging people through email, through social media, and through virtual options that we're bringing with us from COVID because it works. We can balance our life a little more and engage more students that way. We also want to make sure that involvement will look different for every student that we encounter. This makes it super difficult to assess because it's the idea of everyone's different, so let's play with that. But I'll get to that later in our presentation. And then involvement demonstrates that students can be involved while setting barriers for themselves. This is something that we always tell students, student leaders especially, that student comes first, and we always make the joke that we don't want any faculty members mad at us because you're skipping class to come hang out with us. It's not what we want to do because you're a student first. So we want to make sure students understand that they can place barriers on their involvement level that we're going to be okay with and that their students' areas that they're interested in will also be okay with. Next. Impactful. This is where we really want to draw out the student experience, not just on themselves, but also on the community that they're working on. We want to make sure that everyone recognizes the impact just the decision to stay at to build an organization up, to build a campus tradition, to work on a project in our office is going to create some form of impact, whether it's for themselves and their ability to pursue a career in something they're interested in later beyond the campus, or it's for the campus itself. We've seen some really great successes of students influencing change through their involvement in our office. One of our key areas is the student government. They're actively working not just on this campus, but in Olympia to lobby for student needs. So it's really important that we help students understand that the time they're putting in, it may not be paid, it may not come at a physical reward for what they're doing, but they're creating impactful change for what the students will be able to enjoy in the future. And the last one is fluid. This was something that our team was focusing a lot on because we have students who will come to every single student activities board program, but they won't do anything else with us. Or they're super involved like the first few weeks of their first quarter here, and then they realize, oh my God, I gotta do homework. So then they go away for a little bit, and then they come back in winter. So we have to make sure that students know that when they wanna be engaged with our office, it is up to them how much they're willing to do that as well with. I'm gonna skip into the next slide because I don't know how 8 minutes looks. It's just a recap. Next one for me, and then I'll go over our resources. This is some of the most important things I would love for your students to really understand. Our office is composed of 6 primary areas where we involve students in our project areas and initiatives. Resource use being one of them. DubNet is our online student engagement platform that hosts clubs, organizations, and events, and as well as gives students the opportunity to engage in a non-physical setting to find out what's happening on campus. So we always direct students there. We send emails to there all the time, as well as surveys. The Center for Student Involvement and Doghouse Student Lounge are 2 areas that we monitor and oversee to make sure students know that there are resources there for them. We host a number of events, if you didn't know that already. Those are some of our key areas that sponsor events. Welcome Days being the first 2 weeks of every quarter, not just the fall quarter, and we host our events through that, as well as departments and services are able to get on board with that program and submit that information to us so we can share it out with everybody. We also have the clubs and organizations, of which we have 55 currently, but they're constantly growing as student opportunities for involvement. And the next one, which will be my last slide, is programs and services. We do have the Husky Sustainability Fund that sponsors projects and funds projects around sustainable efforts on campus, and actually is working on educating a lot of students in what they're doing. Husky volunteers, as well as our conference and training fund, may be opportunities for students to engage in our area of student involvement. And then civics and governance, student government I mentioned, and how they work with our legislative efforts both in the city and in the state. And we do employ a number of our students in this area, giving them that opportunity and that exposure to leadership that they are looking to progress into their future. And I'll get to the other stuff later, but thank you all for your time.
We have a couple of minutes for questions while Ben comes up for the next.
Okay, I'm going to steal question time to let everyone know that there is more, but there'll be more on the website for it. We're building that foundational understanding of how those 6 areas, students participating in that, we just want them to participate in at least one of them, but most of the time our students end up picking a bunch up more too as well.
How do you find that faculty can best support students getting involved?
I mentioned DubNet. Students will go like, ugh, another system like Canvas. This one is strictly for student engagement. So students who have their campus assignments or doing their work and they're looking for something other to do outside of class time or to grow with their studies in, tell them to log on to DubNet and tell them to actually explore it. If they need help with it, they can come see us, but it's got a calendar of events. They can pick anything they want to go to, and then they can join organizations just from that area. So if they don't want to go to a tabling event or don't want to like talk to someone in person for that first initial concept, they can just join their email list and then get information that way. A lot of the time we hear, well, where do I find all this information? DubNet is the way to go.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we add academic stuff to DubNet?
Yes, you can. We have a number of departments on, I think I looked through the room, we have resources, services, and departments on there. And what's really great is that we can add all of your students, because you're tagged at your majors in the system, to that group. So you can automatically create an email list just from everyone who's in the system based on whatever majors you want to pull in.
Very cool. Thank you.
Let me know if you need any questions.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
So next up, Ben is going to tell us about the Washington Legislative Internship.
Beautiful. My name is Ben Meiches. I'm a professor in the newly formed Department of Social Sciences in the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. I'm going to actually do show of hands here for this one. How many of you think students would like to get paid for taking classes? Not pay for it, but get paid. Okay. How many of you think that they would like classes, maybe a full quarter's worth, to meet, say, 2 hours once a week, if they could? How many of you think that they would like, knowledge that they learn in classrooms to be immediately applicable to an environment where they can see it being, in the flesh? Okay. How many of you think that they might like to have professional development that would be portable in a lot of different venues and careers as part of their undergraduate experience? Okay. How many of you would like to write the law or have fantasized about that at one point in time, at some point creating the rules? Okay. So these are all things and features that are part of the Washington State Legislative Internship Program, which is actually run by Washington State, has been for a couple of decades now. The program was designed because there is a stunning absence of knowledge about how state politics work, and the curriculum and support was created in order to give Washington college students, their juniors and seniors, the opportunity to come in and work on site as part of either a representative's office or a state senator's office. Now, show of hands, how many people think that a state senator has, say, 10 staff in their office? 20? 5? 2? You're close, yeah. They can range a little bit, but it's often just a couple of people. So these are really high impact experiences because our interns go into the offices and they do all kinds of work, from meeting with constituents to talking to people that are asking for legislation taking. They page, they actually will draft emails, newsletters, and in some cases, legislation. The internship runs during winter quarter every single year, along with the legislative session. During short years, it's 10 weeks. During longer legislative sessions, it can be up to, I believe, 16. It's a competitive application process for Washingtonians from any institution. There's typically 200 to 300 applications as part of the program. Students are then paired with individual legislators that they work with over the course of the entire quarter. And they get phenomenal experience. Last winter, we had a student from UW-T who actually wrote the legislation that became part of the Washington Code around how rent control was going to be operated, which is pretty cool that we have somebody that's doing that. They get paid $2,400 or $2,500 a month as part of that. And this is signature to us. We have a dedicated program where students can take a full quarter's worth of credit. And we are the only college or university in Washington State that actually has a dedicated curriculum associated with the students that are down in Olympia. So myself, or previously Charles Williams and Katie Baird, would go down and once a week meet with them and talk through Washington State history, governance, practice, etc. Students that come out of this have truly invaluable high-impact experiences, whether that's I've had coffee with the governor and talked through where the legislative landscape is right now, or I know about the budget deficit facing higher education in greater detail than you do because I'm involved in the committee hearings every single day, or I shadowed one of the most gregarious, long-standing representatives and learned how to talk to people from all these different communities, integrate and create an agenda, be somebody who is capable of outreach. Sometimes they just learned to be dedicated and on task. What does an actual legislative environment look like? And almost all of the students that go through these programs have what I would say is sort of the signature or the ideal of a high impact outcome. They feel more confident as a result of this. They have better clarity about their eventual purpose, where they want to do with their careers. They're exposed to a wide range of issues because literally everybody is advocating for everything at the legislature all the time. And they can actually see the things that we preach about in the classroom, whether that's about power or how legislation is formed, the importance of a certain kind of business or economics practice played out in the way that things are deliberated. And they can see where social justice comes into foray and where it's sometimes diminished in different ways. So we, every spring, send out notice to campus that the directors are coming. We have a really good relationship with all 4 of them for both sides. There's 2 associated with each one of the chambers. And they come around in fall. Applications for students are due at the kind of October, November window. It's a very easy application process requiring 2 short essays, and it's open to anyone of any major, any background. And we have a program dedicated to try to figure out how to support students if they want to pursue this. So it's one of the most kind of special or distinctive, I think, academic opportunities for students from any kind of major. And they go on and do wonderful things. We've had students, Annika Christensen, who I think was one of the awardees for the Chancellor's Medal last year, went on to work at the State Department and in another representative's office. We've had people that have come out of that and gone immediately into private service, being hired by some of the legislators to do kind of consultant and other sorts of work around that, and people that have walked in and said, I thought I wanted to do this, and instead I want to have another avenue, and all those are really valuable outcomes. So That's the Washington State Legislative Internship.
So we have a minute for questions. The next speaker, Heather, I know you just walked in. Would you like us to skip you and then you can go after?
Am I next?
You don't want to feel good about it.
Okay, so we do have a minute for some questions for Ben while Heather gets queued up.
I know you mentioned the competitive nature of the program. How many applicants do we typically have from U of T, and how many typically end up participating every year?
So we varied a little bit between about 20 to 25 to 30. 35 has been our kind of upper bounds, but we are incredibly successful at enrolling students. In fact, Seattle, which has, 10 times as many students as we do, only has 5 more admitted on average per year than Tacoma does. Partly because we've done an excellent job of cultivating the relationship with the program. We're hands-on. They get additional advising from the faculty that go on about how to handle all different kinds of situations. And because our students are reliable and interested in doing the work. And so I think that they've really found that we're kind of a treasure trove of talented pool of students that they bring into us. So we do really well, actually. We're one of the largest draws for the program. Any other questions? Yep.
I wonder how are we or could we be using this as a way to recruit students to come here? Is there some outward-facing advertising that we can point to, or is that kind of where we're headed?
We certainly could do that. We even have a remarkably large list of very talented and successful students that have come out of this program that would be happy to sing its praises and our programmatic praises, whether that's they've gone on to, graduate school or law school in the Ivy Leagues, or they're working currently at the legislature and can talk about it too. So it's a great program for also seeing where you could be 5 or 10 years in the future with respect to, learning this kind of stuff and working in the environment. So.
Well, thank you so much, Ben.
Yep.
Dub is easy Cline.
Okay, does that sound good? All right, well, thank you. I'm really glad to be here. E.C. Cline from Sciences and Mathematics in IAS. I have very much enjoyed working in partnership with many folks on this project, including Heather, but also Peter, Menica, the advising staff, other folks that are involved in kind of supporting the logistics of this program. So I want to thank everybody that's involved. So next slide. So our program launched in 2018. We got another round of funding in 2022, and we are waiting on the next round of funding with bated breath. This is from the National Science Foundation Scholarships in STEM program. Back. Yes, and just a word about that program. So this is a national program that is intended to promote low-income students being able to pursue STEM majors and then move into the STEM workforce. And it is to address shortages in STEM professionals nationally. In our case, we did a needs assessment on our campus, and what we found, which will be not a shock to anyone, is that it's our first time in college students that are really struggling. Many of them are not yet in STEM majors. And so instead of the more traditional model of this program, which is to support students once they're in a STEM major, we chose to focus on the first 2 years. And we do provide ongoing scholarship support, but a lot of the other supports that are part of this program are really built and focused on that first 2 years. So I want to start out by asking you all, just to motivate this a little bit, how many of you, just show of hands, how many of you have either known or had students in your classes where they were thriving and then some financial barrier came up, like their car was totaled, or they lost their job, or they were kicked out of housing, and it just tanked their academic performance? How many of you experienced that? Yeah, and I've definitely seen it too. And then how many of you have had a student who just disappeared? They were doing great, and then they were gone, right? And so this is where my motivation came from, and I think speaking for the other folks that have been involved with this program, we really wanted to think carefully about how we can support students to address those barriers and Financial is a big one, right? So how can you make it a little easier for people to persist and navigate some of those challenges? But also, there's a lot of other things that can come up, more emotional challenges, and how can we better support our students? So one of the things we wanted to do was to make this as inclusive as possible within the constraints of the program. So we've tried to have as many STEM majors as possible so that students can move seamlessly if they change their mind about what they want to major in. So we support most of the STEM majors on our campus. Next slide. And we have thought a lot about how to really be effective in providing mentoring and support that's built into this program. So this is a diagram that shows some of the features of the program. Centerpiece is faculty mentoring. So we have recruited faculty that work with the same student over a 2-year period. So you have the time to really connect. We also have worked with Court 17 to set up a STEM living learning community. You can kind of guess what happened with the pandemic. It didn't go so well, but we're rebuilding. So we're kind of in the 2nd year of rebuilding that program. And so students are able to kind of have that peer support, to also have faculty support built in. And then one thing that we learned very quickly was that when you have a multidisciplinary program where students can major in all of these different majors, they don't see each other, right? They're all in different classes. And so we had to build something that brought them together. And so we introduced the Success in STEM seminar, which is just a 1-credit class. And the students take it every quarter for their first 2 years. So it gets them an opportunity to get together every week. We build a lot of different support and activities and social events into that course. And that has been really helping bring people together. Then we've also incorporated some curriculum, including Heather's T-Cure was designed for transfer students, but also has accommodated our Access Scholars that are coming in with Running Start. Because our program is basically set up primarily for first-time in college students, but many of them have Running Start credits. We also have seen a number of our students that are a little bit behind in the math, and so we started an early fall pre-calculus course, which has been successful in getting students started a little earlier in their math. And then we also have found that mentoring really works best between students and near peers. So we do essentially a laddered mentoring approach where in year 3 and 4 there is a lot less kind of formal activities, but we're inviting students back to be part of social events, to be on panels, and to work with our current, or our 1st and 2nd year students. Next slide. So when we're thinking about this mentoring and support, there's a lot of different dimensions to mentoring, as you all probably are aware. And so students may need different aspects of mentoring at different times, and we try to be really conscious of that. We're trying to provide lots of different dimensions and thinking also about graduate and postgraduate and career mentoring. And as I mentioned, we bring students back, so we have peer and near-peer mentoring that's really fundamental part of it. And then in the Success in STEM seminar, this is a photo of students working on the tower building challenge, which was a lot of fun. So we're trying to build that sense of belonging by having these kinds of events. This is a student presenting the outcome of their research from their 1st year research experience. And we've really tried to get students involved in this course-based research in their 1st year. In many of our majors, we have a lot of undergraduate research experiences built in, but mostly in the upper division. So that early experience is really powerful. Next slide. We look at program outcomes both from academic data, but also from surveys and interviews. What we find is that students report lower collegiate stress, which is less stress is always good. We see higher retention. We see higher GPAs for students that are in the program. We also have, they report higher self-efficacy, science and math identity, and sense of belonging. So these are really good signs that it's having a good effect, in particular for first-gen female and underrepresented students. And we're also seeing students move into their STEM majors faster, which is always a nice thing to see. Next slide. So, ultimately, we're hearing, highlight of my year is to read through the student responses and to hear about what really worked for them and what didn't, and then use that to improve the program. So I'll let you read through some of these comments, but many of them highlight the importance of the mentoring and how impactful that is as they're moving out there into the real world and pursuing their dreams. So next slide. Uh-oh, did we lose the last slide? Go back and see. Oh, I don't know. Well, anyways. Any questions? I had a really cool the picture of the watercolor that you did, but I don't know why it's not there. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Anyways, Heather painted that and gave it to me. And it is symbolic of the mentoring relationship, so I put it in there. Do we have a minute for questions? Or?
We do have a minute
Okay.
for questions while we're teeing up Isabella and Will.
Yes, Rachel.
I'm so excited to hear about all of the great work that you've done on this. I'm curious about the Success in STEM seminar. You mentioned a little bit about the types of activities you do. I'm wondering if you could maybe give some other examples of things you do, workshops and types of content.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a smorgasbord, like we're trying. So for example, we invite in the academic advisors to work with the students on their schedules. We bring in folks across campus, for example, Dawn, other folks to talk about career prep. We have done an equity and inclusion. So there's a lot of kind of in-depth conversations that you can have with a small group like that, especially when you see them over a 2-year period. Talking about identity, talking about agency. So I've had really some great interactions with the students in that program. And then we have a lot of panels. So we have how to find an undergraduate research experience, how to find an internship, what it's like getting your first job. We bring back alumni and folks that are, a couple of years further along in the program. So those kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Next up, we have our UAA PLC.
So today we're going to talk about how we utilize high-impact practices to really connect the academic and the social connections and partnerships. Next slide. So I am Isabella Webb. This is Will Taylor, who is the Associate Director with University Academic Advising. Next slide. So I'm just going to pull some words out of here. So what we really focus on is practices that go beyond traditional coursework in TUNF 250, and then also providing a college experience that has a lasting impact. Next slide. Oh, next. Yep. So if you're asking what is Husky's Success Series, so this is kind of the social arm of academic advising. So we are really trying to provide innovative, collaborative partnerships. We really want to have a goal of having our finger on the pulse of what's happening on campus, and also to provide students with a successful experience at UW-Tacoma. Next slide. So these are some of our programs. What I really wanted to highlight is that Freshman Transfer Connect. We began that in 2020 with 25 participants online. We grew this to 100 plus participants with over 130 RSVPs in 2025. Registration is a piece of cake. 2019, we had 7 participants. As of last week, we had 116 participants. And then end of year bash, we started that last year and we began with 100 participants. Next slide. So I don't remember a lot about this movie. But for some reason, this quote has always stuck with me. And so I really believe that if you build it, the students will come. Next slide. And it's because of the fun. So rather than tell you about the fun, we're going to show you the fun. So that's our Freshman Transfer Connect. This occurs every autumn. And really the secret to the success is that it's entirely student-led. We've got free prizes, lattes, pizza. There's speed friending, so the students are getting the information about how to navigate UW from their peers, right? They've spent all summer going to orientations, meeting with advisors. Now what they really want to do is meet their fellow students. We also have a vibe tour where students can kind of talk about, this is where I study, this is where I hang out, this is where my secret parking space is. So it's really all just about hanging out together that makes it successful. And next slide. So RPC, what makes this successful? First of all, it's cupcakes. When we started this, it was a sheet cake being wheeled up the hill to court 17. And it's also teamwork because Dr. Becker came to me 2 years ago and said, I want you to grow this event. I said, I'm gonna need cupcakes and I'm gonna need to rent a dog. So this is McKinley. She just celebrated her 15th birthday. Well, actually, she celebrated her birthday. 15 of her friends came to a brewery, and they all had gift bags. So it's kind of about the little details that you provide to students. Next slide. My 4 minutes. Okay. This is a list of who we've partnered with, hope to partner with, or I've reached out to you to partner, because I try to partner with just everybody on campus. Next slide. Everything we do is really driven by student feedback. So if a student tells us, I love this, I don't like this, I want to see this, we incorporate it. And now I'll hand it over to Will.
Okay. Thanks, Isabella. So my name is Will Taylor. I'm the Associate Director for UAA. I really want to show my appreciation to Isabella for basically creating these events and really getting them off the ground in the last couple of years. Something else that we do in UA is teach a 2-credit class called TUNIV 250 Husky Success Quest. It's a 2-credit elective for pre-major students, and it's taught by advisors in our unit. So it's pretty different than a lot of typical classes that a student would take. We don't have a lot of traditional assignments. It's really designed to help them think about their strengths and their interests and how to connect those to careers and majors that they might want to pursue. So we really recommend it to our students who maybe are new to campus and don't really know what it is they want to pursue. We try and help them be really self-reflective on a lot of those things. So you can see kind of our course description and our learning objectives here. Next slide. We try and share a lot about ourselves in this class to help students think about, what our pathways look like and what theirs might look like. Isabella does a great job sharing her background, and I like to talk about being a history major, and you can see how excited I am for my job prospects in my graduation photo. Next. We also bring in a variety of guest speakers from across campus and the community, folks who can help them learn about resources on campus, but also share their own journeys. Folks from CEI, First Gen Fellows, TLC, a lot of campus resources there. Next up. The main project that we have these students do is called a leader interview, in which they have to go out and find someone who's working in a professional field that they might want to work in themselves, ideally someone they don't know. And they do an informational interview with them to learn about that person's journey and pathway and maybe some takeaways that they could take if they are also wanting to pursue that particular career, which can be pretty scary for a lot of our students. And we try and coach them through that and help make connections when they're struggling to find those folks. Next. Just some examples of past interviews that students have done. I think this can be really helpful for them to either learn if it is what they want to do or maybe not what they want to do. And we've had a lot of students who not only have they found what they want to do, but maybe figured out that that first idea they had wasn't the right pathway for them. Next. Yeah, I think the rest are just some examples of some of the leader projects we've done. But yeah, that is essentially what our course is. If you've got any pre-major students who need some help figuring it all out, TUNIV 250 is a really good option for them. We teach it autumn, winter, spring. Yeah, I think that's it for us.
Thank you. We do have time for a couple of questions while we get ready for our next speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I was curious, just now that you've had this class for a bit, if you ever have former students who took it who are later on in college, like come back and talk to the class about like.
We sure do. Vincent this is one of the first classes he took. He then was the student body president for 2 years, graduated, worked in the healthcare field, is now in grad school. He is one of our guest speakers. And so I just want to say our guest speakers, it's a personal, Zach Curtis is one of our guest speakers as well. So it's not just come and tell us about your department, it's like tell us about your identity. Tell us who you are, where did you come from, what were your struggles, what got you to where you are at UWT, and students 100% resonate with that. Because they say, this is the story of my family, this is the story of my culture, this is the story of my identity, and it's just such a feeling of connectedness. Sorry, I jumped on that.
No, you had a better answer than me.
All right.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
If we're not currently one of your partners that help or work on those events, how do we become a partner?
I will be emailing you in approximately 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. I like jump on, I mean, there's a Conor, you know, Zach, yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of folks who given presentations in our class in here today.
Yeah.
Oh, you have another question, okay.
Most important question, who does the dog belong to?
The dog? So it's the Husky Malamute Society. People adopt them. You can actually go and walk the dogs if you want that kind of therapy. And so they have their moms and dads bring these guys to campus. Students love it. I mean, last week we had 65 students. They're all standing there, 15 minutes, they want their cupcake. They come in, they see the dogs, the face lights up. They're so happy to be there. It's branding, it's marketing, it makes them feel like they're a part of something, and it just makes them happy. But it also makes the staff happy. And the thing is, I mean, it does. You know, I get so happy. I'm like, I get to sit here and like just, and the dogs will come around and they'll talk to you, and I love that. But it is, high impact practices are also the people that you work with, right? Because you can't provide these opportunities if you don't have a team that believes in you.
Thank you, thank you. Next we have Melissa and Hana, who are here from OSAS. I always like to brag on Hana, who is a double Husky and an alum of both the TLC and UAA.
My gosh, thank you for having us. We did not memorize this, and we do like to talk a lot, so we've brought our papers. So again, thank you for having us. We're the Office of Student Advocacy and Support. Today we are going to share with you just a brief glimpse into how our office plays an integral role in supporting student success at UWT. So this conversation is especially important because this week actually is Post-Secondary Basic Needs Awareness Week. So that's exciting that it fell on the same time. I'm Melissa Ford. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Advocacy and Support.
And my name's Hana. I am the Basic Needs Navigator for OSAS. Okay, next slide. Okay, so many of us here today are passionate about student success. We share the same mission of supporting our students in the pursuit of obtaining a degree in higher ed. As an Office of Social Workers, we believe that the single most important factor for academic success isn't just the quality of an instructor, the content of a textbook, or the accreditation of a program, but something much more fundamental. Next slide. I want you all to imagine a student. Let's call her Maria. Maria is dedicated to her studies. She is a first-gen student who has excelled in her program, despite needing to retake some classes. She's taking her chemistry final. It's the exam that she's been studying for weeks, but as she looks at the test, the formulas blur. Her stomach is screaming. She skipped dinner last night to afford a required lab manual. She didn't sleep well last night because hunger pains kept her up tossing and turning. She knows that she can't afford to fail and jeopardize the last bit of her financial aid. In this moment, Maria isn't failing chemistry. Her basic needs are failing her. Next slide. Maria's story is not an exception. It's a silent epidemic on our very own campus across Washington State. According to the 2024 Washington Student Experience Survey, 632 University of Washington Tacoma students responded. While this may seem like a small sample, the results reveal a critical issue. 55% of respondents faced food insecurity, 44 had difficulty accessing health care, and 36 experienced housing insecurity. It is critical to note these figures likely underrepresent the problem. Students grappling with severe crises often are unable to participate in surveys, meaning the true scale of these challenges is almost certainly greater. A student struggling with housing insecurity is typically having to deal with so many other barriers related to their basic needs, like financial hardship, lack of health care, reliable transportation, and so many other things that we all take for granted. Next slide. We might picture students living in dorms or apartments, but the reality is some are sleeping in cars, on friends' couches with no stability. We picture them picking up lunch on Pac Ave between classes or having a morning coffee at Metro. However, there are some that are skipping meals, relying on the pantry, the Nourish mobile food bank, and the cupboard every week just to get by. Next slide. I want to assure you that this isn't just about struggling students. This is about high-achieving students, student parents, first-generation students, grad students, international students. They are making impossible choices every single day. Do I buy my textbook or pay my electric bill? Do I take a full course load or pick up more hours at work? You can't write a paper when you're hungry. You can't crack a complex physics problem when you're anxious about being evicted. Your dream of higher education becomes a logistical nightmare. So what happens when students' basic needs aren't met? Next slide. Well, it's simple. The brain cannot focus when the body is in survival mode. When you are stressed about your next meal, where your next meal is coming from, or where you will sleep tonight, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus, memory, complex problem solving, essentially goes offline. Your body diverts all of its energy into managing the crisis. The results? Dropping grades, dropped classes, and eventually dropped dreams. Students like Maria don't drop out because they aren't capable. They drop out because they can't survive the circumstances that we expect them to learn in. We work in a system that assumes a college student's life is financially stable, that their support system is robust, that financial aid and state benefits are enough to cover the needs of our students. In reality, that foundation may be cracked or missing entirely. Many students do not meet the qualifications to receive SNAP. Financial aid can only be stretched so far as the cost of living rises, and the only option is to drop out or pull out loans. Some may argue that that's just the way things are. I wholeheartedly disagree. So how do we address these needs to support student success? Next slide. Well, our office believes it starts with visibility. We have to stop stigma around basic needs. Struggling to meet basic needs is not a personal failure, it's a systemic one. Our mission since our office was established at the University of Washington Tacoma has always been clear: to support our students in developing strategies to overcome and address barriers that prevent them from achieving their educational and life goals. Next slide.
So here's just a peek at some of our data. Our office receives the Supporting Students Experiencing Homelessness, or the SSEH grant. It's a grant that is specifically for students who are currently at risk of experiencing homelessness. So we're just gonna do it real quick, because during the 24-25 academic year, we supported 48 eligible students through case management, emergency funding, emergency housing, and connection to other supportive on and off campus resources. So because of that support, 83% completed the academic term in which they received services. 77% enrolled in the next quarter, and then we saw 10 students that were eligible for graduation. They achieved their degree, so that was very exciting. Next slide, please. So to wrap up, just because we like to talk and we don't want to go over our time. So we want to take this final moment just to give a gentle reminder about the importance of viewing students as human beings before anything else, regardless of our own biases of college and college life and college experience. I think it can be really easy to forget what struggling feels like when we're so far in our career, or just far removed from it, or if you've never experienced it before. So I think that we're lucky enough to have such a diverse university and student body. We have students first gen, we have students who have been previously incarcerated, students who are returning to school to start their next chapter, students with families, students straight out of high school, just such a very diverse group that are all overcoming. They all have their own story and they're all overcoming their own challenges. So I think it's important to listen to those stories. And more importantly, if you hear of a student or you are somebody that needs more support, refer them to our office. We are here to help.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we have time for questions.
Anyone? Oh, yes.
I'm curious what kind of resources you have for case management. Are you able to help students find housing and all of those types of things? And
Yeah.
is there kind of a waiting list, or do you
So-
have enough capacity for the need?
Well, sadly, a lot of students don't get referred to us. But the ones that we do see, we always make sure that we can see them. So we have resources, but again, housing is like one of the biggest barriers. It's not affordable, and there's just not enough in the area. So we work with them on more long-term goals and like getting maybe roommates and how are you going to finance that and those type of things. But we do have resources. Yes. Yes.
I'm going to ask how you practice self-care. The reason I ask that is because we see students in crisis mode, and our next step is we're going to refer you to student advocacy. But you're at the end of the line on the campus potentially. So how do you leave at the end of the day, knowing that you're sending a student out there to sleep in a car?
Yeah, we try not to do that if we know. But no, that's a good question. Sometimes it's not good.
I went to Melissa, and she comforts me, and that's how I deal with it. Yeah.
We hold a lot for sure. Sometimes it's hard when you're driving home and you know there's so many students that there's just so much need and there's not enough resources out there for them. So we do the best we can. But yeah, self-care. I mean, we did have a couple hours to color the other day. Yeah. We closed the office and did a little coloring activity, so that was fun. But yeah, that's something we could all work on, I think. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. So, that is the end of our session. I'd like to once again thank Megumi Dumond and Shea Duncan, who did a lot of work behind the scenes, and Beth Ann Hoover, who jumped in at the last minute to keep us on time. I honestly was up last night, very worried about how many talks we tried to fit into this time slot. And so I'd most like to thank all of the speakers who gave of their time, but more importantly, for all of the work that you are doing for students. So if we can all give them a huge round of applause. So while we're still together, I have a couple of things for you. So coming up, we did have a data party scheduled in December. That will not be happening. Instead, we're going to be replacing or doing another one of these sessions because we had more people interested in presenting than we had time slots. So if you are so inclined or inspired by what you heard today and want to share some of the amazing things that you're doing, there's a QR code here and on the back of the agendas. That QR code is there as well. You can also sign up. We're going to be having on April 24th a faculty teaching development showcase. We're going to be hearing about the amazing work of the Student Experience Project, which Menica is leading, and the CCAP, which I never remember what it stands for, which Dawn is leading with Maeve O'Donnell. And if you are doing any sort of faculty teaching development and are interested in either presenting or helping us to plan this, you can do so also at the same QR code. And then, of course, March 4th is going to be our spring data party. So with the little bit of time that we have left, I have just a little survey here for you, not a survey, but some questions. So we asked, what's one word to describe how you were feeling when you came in? We'll ask you to give us one word that describes how you're feeling after today's Student Success TED Talks. And otherwise, we have a couple of minutes for mingling. Please eat the food. Please feel free to connect with each other. There's quite a few connections that were really clear from various people's presentations. And thank you to everybody for everything that you do every day in support of our students. So thank you very much.